All right, today we're going to dive into a topic that is, well, it's pretty much everywhere you look. It's in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and even the sounds we hear. So let's get into it. This is your user's guide to pollution.
So let me ask you this. What do a factory smokestack, a plastic bottle, and a noisy street all have in common? The answer, of course, is that they're all forms of pollution. But what does that word actually mean? You know, we hear it all the time, but the real definition is a little more specific than you might think. It's not just about trash on the side of the road.
Here's the core idea. Pollution is any unfavorable alteration to our environment. It's basically any disruption to the natural balance. And let's be honest, it's almost always caused by us, by human actions.
Okay, so if pollution is the state of the environment, then pollutants are the troublemakers causing it. Think of them as the ingredients in a recipe for disaster. These are the specific things, the chemicals, the waste, the noise, that get released and do the actual harm to ecosystems.
Now, to even begin to understand how to deal with all these different pollutants, scientists have to categorize them. Think of it like a big filing system for contaminants. So let's pull open the first two drawers and see how they sort this stuff.
So, the first way scientists sort pollutants is with a really simple question. Can nature break it down or not? On one side, you have your biodegradable pollutants, things like food scraps or sewage. Microbes can get to work on those and decompose them. But on the other side, that's the really tricky stuff, the non-biodegradable pollutants, like plastics and glass that just stick around for, well, a ridiculously long time.
And this just makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? On the left, you've got things that can rot and go back into the earth. But on the right, that's the stuff our modern world invented that the planet really has no idea what to do with. E-waste, construction debris, plastics. These are huge challenges for exactly this reason.
Okay, let's open up the next file drawer. This one is all about their origin story. You've got your primary pollutants, which come directly from a source, thanks smoke pouring out of a smokestack. But here's where it gets complicated. When those primary pollutants get into the atmosphere, they react with sunlight and other chemicals, and they form something totally new, secondary pollutants. And the crucial thing to remember is that these new creations, like smog or acid rain, are often even more toxic than the stuff they started from.
So, there you have it. Those chemically cooked up pollutants are known as secondary pollutants. Now, with that in mind, let's see how all these different types of pollution actually play out in the real world.
First up, let's look up. We're talking about air pollution. This is probably the most widespread and visible type of pollution that most of us experience in our day-to-day lives. To put it simply, air pollution is just when there's an excessive amount of foreign stuff in the air. It's when the very thing we all need to survive becomes loaded with things that can harm us and every other living being.
And this foreign matter basically comes in two main flavors. You've got your gaseous pollutants, like sulfur dioxide, and then you have what are called particulate pollutants. We're talking tiny little particles of dust and smoke. And yes, sure, natural sources like volcanoes can contribute, but the vast majority of it, that comes from us.
You know, what goes up must come down. The pollutants we pump into the air don't just stay there forever. A lot of them find their way into our water and our soil, which, as you can imagine, creates a whole new world of problems.
And just like with the air, water pollution is really any kind of alteration to its natural state. It's anything that changes its physical, chemical, or biological properties and makes it unsuitable for whatever we need it for, whether that's drinking, swimming, or just supporting life.
And the impact is absolutely huge. It can spread diseases, and pollutants can build up in fish, affecting the entire food chain until they land on our plates. But this last fact here is the one that always gets me. 80%, 80 of all marine pollution actually comes from land. What we do in our cities and on our farms is directly impacting the health of our oceans.
And finally, there's the ground itself. Soil pollution happens when those pollutants from the air and water eventually settle and they start to degrade the quality of the soil. This is a massive deal because it directly threatens our ability to grow food. Pollutants get in the soil, then they get taken up by plants, and well, you can guess where they go from there.
So we've covered the pollution that we can often see, smell, or even taste. But what about the kinds that are totally invisible? Let's talk about two of the most insidious forms out there, noise and radiation.
We've all felt this one. The constant blare of horns in traffic, the rumble of a construction site, that's noise pollution. And it is so much more than just an annoyance. It's technically defined as an unwanted sound that acts as a source of stress, and it has real, measurable physiological effects on our health.
And in modern city life, it is literally everywhere. It's coming from industry, from all our transport, cars, planes, you name it, and even from our own homes and neighborhoods. It has become the constant, unwanted soundtrack to our lives. And finally, that brings us to what might be the most potent and, frankly, frightening form of all: radioactive pollution. This is what happens when human activities, from using nuclear power to testing weapons, release dangerous radioactive materials, raising the radiation levels far above what's natural or safe.
And the legacy of this type of pollution is severe and incredibly long-lasting. Our source points to two key historical moments: the dropping of the atomic bombs in 1945, which really introduced this terrible threat to the world, and the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, which showed everyone how a single accident could contaminate a huge area for generations.
All of this brings us to a really powerful and kind of sobering statement from our source material. It makes the argument that pollution isn't something you can easily fix after the fact. It says it's like an incurable disease, where the only real medicine is prevention.
So I'll leave you with that thought to chew on. When you look at everything from plastics that will outlive all of us to radioactive fallout that will linger for centuries, do you agree? Is pollution an incurable disease? Can we truly clean up the messes we've made, or is trying to prevent it in the first place the only real path forward?